Believe it or not, it's the Solid Signal podcast for the first week of August 2015. Wow, does seem like it's flying by, but that's okay. I decided to dedicate this week's podcast to the issue of movies in theaters, which has very little to do with Solid Signal, but sometimes, folks, I got to give you a bit of pure entertainment, especially the last couple of weeks I have been leaning on the technical a little bit more than I have in the past. You know, if you knew me 15 years ago, you know that I was the sort of person who lined up for pretty much every movie in the theater in the summer. Truth be told, actually, I went to pretty much every movie there was back in those days, and I really tried to get there early on because back when all movies were distributed on film, a couple of days could really make a difference in the quality of the print. Today, of course, it's all digital and it really doesn't matter. And it matters even less because in an average year, I will now go to one, maybe two theatrical releases. And partially that's, I'm older and I'm keeping more of my money. And also now there's Netflix and streaming and iTunes, and I've got a nice big television. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But one of the reasons is that honestly, I think that the quality of movies overall, the really deep, inherent quality of those movies has dropped. I'm not saying that, say, 2000 was a great time for movies, certainly not as good as other times that have been out there, but 2015 has to be some of the worst time, and certainly in the last 10 years, movies, I think, have gotten more formulaic and more difficult to stomach if you've watched any of the truly great ones, and then you have to be subjected to some of the ones we have now. This movie season so far hasn't been that impressive as far as I can see. We've had Avengers, which certainly made a lot of money, and Terminator made a certain amount of money, and Jurassic World has made a certain amount of money. I don't think that the movie industry is going to suffer from a lack of money this season, and that's kind of a shame, actually, because unfortunately that means they won't change their tune too quickly. However, I was talking with a friend the other day, and it occurred to me that where we are with movies now is actually kind of where music was about 50 years ago. Back in the 1960s, music was a big business, and if you wanted to be a rebel, you had to hide your message deep, deep in the music. And you had to do it in a way where it would still appeal to people in the mainstream, but then if you really understood what was being said, then you came across with a very important message, and that very idea changed music irrevocably, and it's why, in a lot of people's opinions, the music of, say, about 1964 to 1970 is some of the best publicly available popular music that we'll ever see. But I digress. What I'm really trying to say here is that it costs millions and millions and millions of dollars to make a movie now, and a movie has to be almost a guaranteed success. It has to play off something we already know. It has to be familiar enough that we're going to want to see it proved over and over again that truly original concepts really don't succeed that often. And so that's why you'll see remakes of Vacation or Jurassic Park or Terminator, plus the predictable sequels, the next Hunger Games movie, the next Insurgent or Divergent or Detergent, whatever movie. This is what you'll see, because these things make money. But one thing I noticed, and it was not really well done, but it was there in the new Jurassic Park movie, one of the few movies I saw in the theater this year, was there was a subtle message in it. It was a subtle commentary on the movie-making industry, having to get bigger and bigger and bigger in order to continue to entertain the same people. The entire movie talked to that concept, and how what used to be really impressive a generation ago isn't really impressive at all now because anybody can do it. This subtle little tiny bit of message that happened to make its way into a summer blockbuster did encourage me. It's the same way I've been encouraged in the past by the movies of Christopher Nolan, which are very rarely about what you think they're going to be about. They're not really movies about superheroes or magicians or detectives or criminals. They're movies about the human condition and about thought and about soul and about a lot of other different things very cleverly packaged so that people will buy it, and the right people, the average moviegoer, will completely ignore this message, and that the people who are really paying attention will get it. I hope to see more and more movies with subtle messages and well crafted thoughts that just happen to be surrounded by millions and millions and millions of dollars of CGI, because that's what you need to make a good popcorn movie that's going to make money for you. I think that this current movie-going season is a wash. Certainly money's going to be made, but nobody's going to tell you it's the best one ever. It could be getting very close to the worst one ever, unfortunately. However, next year and the year after, if clever movie makers find ways to put interesting thoughts and concepts deep, deep into those summer blockbusters, well, there might just be enough to drag me back to the theater. That's all for the Solid Signal podcast this week. Went a little bit long, but I hope you found that it was enjoyable and worth it. I'll talk to you more next week.